Warning. The following content may contain elements that are not suitable for some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, nighttime, 3 in the morning, whatever time it is, whatever you are. Welcome with open arms to another episode of Whisper the Insights. I lost track, somewhere in the mid-20s. Who cares? It's one of the best shows in the web, so you come in here because you have no content like this anywhere else, and that's what matters. Thank you for being here. We have a fantastic show today. We're going to be talking with Stessa Cohen, a former Gartner analyst and former colleague. We're going to be talking about ditching transformation in favor of smaller innovations. And this is going to be a very interesting conversation. But, as always, before we get there, let me tell you what we have coming up over the next couple episodes. Next week, the 12th of March, the return of Liz Miller. This is going to be a great conversation. We're going to have a conversation talking about the outlook for business in 2024. And the best part, we are not going to mention AI at all. Oh my God, is that possible even? We'll do it. AI doesn't exist. What's business going to do in 2024 without looking at AI? After that, the week after, on March 19th, fantastic episode. Steve Gilmore, Brent Leary, and I will be talking about the new models to share insights. You've seen the show, you're wondering why we're doing this, what's the plan, where are we going forward, what are some of the strategies? Well, all those questions will be answered, plus more, including what do you do with short videos and things like that. And finally, to round up the month, we have one of the most interesting conversations that I had in a long time, which is Dave Hirsch. Dave Hirsch is an old friend and a former founder of a company called Lithium. Jive. Sorry, I get that mixed up all the time. Oh shit, there you go. Get that mixed up all the time, and he will chastise me for that. But he founded Jive, and this was a community company. He's done tremendously well, but since then, he actually is talking about how can businesses find a purpose other than making money. Is he talking about the end of capitalism? We'll see. Join us March 26th for that. This will be an interesting show. So now that you know what we have planned for the rest of March, now that you know where we are, let's bring out my wonderful guest who's going to introduce herself so I don't ruin her reputation, Stessa Cohen. And the crowd goes wild. Hey, welcome. How are you doing?
Hey, good. Thank you, Esteban. Good. Thanks for inviting me and having me on today. I know.
My pleasure. I mean, this show is about talking to smart people, so there's no reason why you shouldn't be here. I know you said you were a little nervous. Don't worry about it. We're just going to have a brief conversation. Let's start with the simplest questions. Who are you?
Who am I? Well, I'm an independent consultant, analyst, researcher, evangelist. Is that a good buzzword?
Yeah, influencer, whisperer. Yeah, we've been through all of them. But so, who do you work with mostly?
I work with fintechs, and that's broadly defined. Software companies in the banking and payment space primarily. I've covered banking and payments since the Middle Ages when I was at Gartner, and since I left about 5 years ago now. So in that space, they could be large, small vendors. I'll also work with financial institutions mostly through my affiliation with Third Eye Advisory, because a single entrepreneur is a little hard for a bank to get their hands around.
Yeah,
that's a lot. So I do like the things that I really find are fun. Strategy, positioning, thought leadership. I'm really good about thinking out into the future and pulling it into the present. I also write a Substack like every other human being on the planet.
Oh, I don't write anymore. I do videos now.
Well, that's probably smart, but I keep them very short.
Yeah,
I keep them short because nobody wants to read, and I focus on the story. What story do I want to tell you this week?
So let me correlate that to what you do then. What's the story in the financial industry? Why is it different from the rest of the world, or why is it better or worse? Your choice.
Well, I mean, first of all, the main difference from many industries is that it's heavily regulated. right? Um, the regulation varies by country, by region, by governmental body, EU versus whatever. So there are a lot of rules and there are a lot of workarounds around the rules. Um, every financial institution loves to think that they're unique. So that's thing. And they're a legacy business, literally coming from, writing down on paper every transaction and reconciling them all in the evening. So it's a legacy business. It drags around tons of processes. And this is not, I mean, I don't have any special information on this. It's well known. But they've been involved in technology since, a long time. I mean, many large banks have lots of mainframes that run really well. So,
The early tabulation machines from the 1950s and 1960s were majorly to banks, right? I mean, before we even
yeah,
had mainframes, yeah.
yeah. I mean, because what do banks have? Lots of transactions, and they have to be reconciled against your account, you
Okay.
know. So,
So, go ahead. Yeah.
and they're like every other industry that they were hit hard by everything that's happened in the last however many years. Digital, whatever that is, the pandemic.
Yeah.
um, you know, I remember writing about, how banks had to get into podcasting like probably 16, 17 years ago. People
Mm.
thought I was nuts.
It's funny because I had exposure to financial services and financial industry over my lifetime. Like everybody, not like you, like deep into it, but by
Yeah.
overlapping and things like that. And I always, I mean, I even worked for a bank for 3 years in my technology days way before I was an analyst and all this. But I never would have said a bank is a bedrock of innovation, and yet here's you and your topic when we're talking about all we can discuss. You said let's talk about small innovations, and that's what piqued my interest. I mean, it's like the background and the word don't seem to align. But correct me, am I wrong here? Are financial industry is the financial industry like a bedrock of innovation somehow?
Well, yes and no. I mean, they're all into digital, and many banks have adopted some interesting technologies that do interesting things for people, but it can be really hard to do big transformation. Um, I know this from working in a bank before I was an analyst. Um, that's a it's very difficult. It's if not impossible to do big transformation, and it is possible to do smaller projects. But the the part that I see that's really important is the space between the small projects and the larger transformation, right?
Hmm.
So there's an opportunity there for, I think, probably all organizations to do this. Um, what do I mean? Well, it's really not so hard to say, for example, improve your mobile banking app. Let's say you get a lot of customer feedback that it basically stinks. We can't use it, it's broken. That's something that you can get your hands around and fix it. I mean, you can probably get
Mhm.
your teenage kid to fix it, right? But if a bank is smart, or a division in the bank that's responsible for fixing this app is smart, they connect it to a larger strategy. I think it can start to build into things. Okay, so we're going to fix the front end. Then what other problems do we have? As opposed to we're going to create digital transformation. What does that even mean? Where
What,
do
what do
you
you mean? What does
go?
that mean? It's business. Every decade we have a different transformational initiative that moves us forward. 1980s personal computers, 1990s the internet, 2000s social, 2010s digital, 2020s AI. I
Okay.
mean, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, but what's the transformation? All of those, in my mind, do very similar things. Improve operational efficiencies, right? And increase self-service. All right.
Sure.
So let's take the small problem of account opening, self-service account opening, and
Okay.
removing what friction. All right. The
Yeah.
number of steps. So many banks have done this. Fast account opening. Oops, their fraud detection stuff is still in the back office.
Yeah.
So they can't detect whether this is a good account opening or not because they just digitize the front end without thinking together, oh, what else could this impact? So when you start to fix the front end, you have to connect it to the rest. So the reason why this has become a hot topic is that there's tons of fraudulent account openings now, which is against the law because it's a regulated industry. If you go in person to a branch, somebody looks you up, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. Esteban Kolsky, are you on this list? Oh, you're not. Fine. Although this
Sure,
is a
but
heavily flawed list, so.
I mean, that's operational efficiency, right? I mean, that's the basis. That's what is seeking innovation. I mean, we moved away from having to go to a branch in this example of account opening. We moved away from having to go to a branch to being able to do it online through services that verify, quote unquote, verify your identity. Upload your passport and take a picture. And some guy in some poor country halfway around the world will make sure that the picture that he just took and the passport that you send are the same, and then it will verify that you're who you say you are. KYC complete, know your customer, KYC complete, and then we let you open the account. So, but that's just operational efficiency. But is that real innovation? I mean, is that use of technology for innovation?
No,
Okay.
but those are, I think when you start with these small projects,
Yeah.
they build up to innovation. Let me give you an example. And I wrote about this, and I just like it so much because it's not about banking. I live in 100-year-old house, right?
Mhm.
Everything is falling apart. It's not the roof isn't falling in, but it's made out of organic materials, so everything is falling apart a little bit at a time every day. So I have somebody that I can call and say, hey, Wayne, come over. I want to fix X. So I called Wayne and had Wayne come over to put in a new wall so he could put in a cabinets in my basement, right? So Wayne does this and he sends me a text message and I come down from my office and say, what's up? He goes, I know you didn't ask me to do this, but there are 7 bags of cement holding your stairs up. And that's all.
Hey, that's innovation, okay?
Exactly. So he went in with this mindset that I'm going to fix the wall and then I'm going to put up these cabinets. But he saw this bigger problem that had nothing to do with the wall. He could have just covered it all up, said, oh, this is great stuff. So here's your bill, and I'm like, because this isn't my first project, I was like, okay, of course there's 7 bags of concrete holding up the stairs that could have collapsed at any minute. So he took those out and he did what he needed to do. And then he's like, guess what? Some of the floorboards, I don't know the technical terms, on the actual stairs are worn through and need to be replaced. So he replaced them and he fixed all that, put up the new sheetrock and the cabinets. And it turns out that doing that made the whole stair experience totally different because the stairs, because they weren't secure, were banging on a water pipe that runs across the basement.
Oh, wow.
And it's like a totally new experience. So he did this innovation one little piece at a time, just by paying attention to what was going on around him. And he was all worried, oh, this is going to cost you extra $100. This is going to cost another $200. To me, that was worth it because I'm not going in and looking behind the staircase now, right?
Yeah.
But on top of that, what it does is prepare me for the kitchen renovation. All right. So
Kitchen transformation, you mean?
exactly.
Yeah.
So my kitchen is literally falling apart, and 100-year-old house, the floors have a nice valley.
Yeah.
that increases every year. All right. You can't fix the problem on the floors without demolishing the kitchen because you have to look at what's underpinning the kitchen. So I wouldn't have been prepared for this because this is a way bigger project, let me tell you.
Mm.
Anybody who can tell me what is wrong and what they're going to do to fix the floors without seeing everything taken out doesn't know what they're talking about.
Right.
So, how does this connect to banking? There are some infrastructure issues that you can't get to until you build up the goodwill in the organization, a non-technical term thing, right? Until you get some of the easier software hits, the easier improvements that improve customer satisfaction and improve the way people perceive tech and the use of it in the organization. Because at the heart are those floor beams that have warped, and they have to figure out how to even them out and totally demolish the kitchen and redesign it for the 21st century. It's even a better analogy than I thought.
I can extend that analogy even beyond financials. I mean, almost every company I work with, when it comes to enterprise tech, has the same problem. They have the 7 bags of cement, also known as a software that was all the rage during the 1992 era, that has been there forever, that runs everything. They have the workflow is called Excel spreadsheets that run the entire company, right? So all this stuff is basically the same. So that's a good analogy to the difference, not the difference on how it all comes together, right? It's like you have to focus on the innovation. But I mean, would you really call removing the 7 bags of cement and put in a new pillar and a new post to hold the stairs instead of the 7 bags of cement? Would you call that innovation, or would you call that optimization, or does it make a difference?
Well, the innovation is looking beyond just the singular fix. Okay. Just, fixing the sheetrock, but looking and going, oh my God, the stairs are being held up by the cement. I say that's an innovation because it was right there, but I could have pretended not to see it and just fix the problem that I was asked to do. Or I could say, hey, this is kind of all connected. Once I close this up, you're never going to see this again. But you could fall through the floor at any time. So, that's an innovation to say, hey, not related, but connected, because I only see this once I decide I'm going to improve the customer interface and I'm going to make it run faster. Maybe we find some other problem that's right adjacent, but we won't see it once we make this fix. So no one will ever come across it again. And I guarantee you, in banks, this comes all the time. And what happens is there are workarounds. Okay, we'll write it down somewhere and we'll get back to it. Never happens.
Well, documentation doesn't do anything. Yes, of course.
Right. But being allowed to say, hey, there's a problem here. It's not in the spec, but we need to fix this too. And going ahead, I think, is an innovative process that can build on it. So while Wayne's not doing the kitchen because he does have a day job, I was able to bring in expert innovators who could tell me, oh, here's the plan. They came up with a design that I never would have come up with because I'm not a designer. But and they're doing some innovative things. First of all, I'm having a flat floor for the first time.
So I mean, let me recap, make sure that I got the part of innovation properly.
Yeah.
So basically, we're talking about everything is held together with duct tape and baling wire virtually everywhere in the world. Let's not disparage that, right? I mean, there's not a single company. I have never in my entire career been at a place where everything is properly planned, strategically aligned, and executed from A through Z, right?
Right.
So everything is being held together with baling wire and duct tape. And innovation comes to once the duct tape and baling wire begins to fail or ceases to grow, if it's a better way to put it, then how do we actually solve that? What do we do to replace that with a better model that aims to create a more optimal state for that, right?
Yeah.
So that's basically it. Yeah. So innovations are simple. I hate the concept of innovation versus disruption versus evolution versus transformation. Everybody uses all these words as if they were like big words, but I agree with you. I think that innovation is the simplest thing. It's like once shit doesn't work, let's make it work again. You know.
Yeah, and I mean, on the other hand, you have to stop using stuff that was meant to do, this B for C.
Yeah.
In the banking world, ACH, which is a type of way of moving money around in the US, is used for things. It's like using toothpicks to grill. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you can do it, but why not get the proper tools? So but you have to admire banking. We've made good with a lot of old tools, but sometimes you have to just go in and say, we have to pull this out and put something in that you can actually innovate on top of. Like not a new credit card that's made out of titanium, but actually think of new products and services that you couldn't do before, that you couldn't
We
do.
I'm not going to digress into a discussion of ACH versus other worlds, other countries' way of directly sending money from A to B. So we're going to leave it
Yeah,
there. But
yeah.
I agree with you. I think that it's about like finding better ways to do things that been done poorly, whether it's a new product or even as simple as like creating a self-service interface to something else, right? That's kind of like the way to go about it. But so let's shift to transformation then a little bit, if you don't mind. I mean, uh,
Sure.
like I said, I mean, in my view of the world, the transformation happens every decade or so. I mean, they last 2 or 3 decades because you get the flash and everybody runs behind it like digital transformation, and then my favorite thing in the whole universe was in the 2010s and in 20 teens. It was like if you don't digital transform your company, you'll never survive. A crisis, and then the pandemic hits, and nobody's digitally transformed, but everybody survives, and some people even thrive in that model, right? So now we've proven that transformation is not really the do or die, but it's more like a general direction for the company. How would you define the transformation?
I think it's a mindset, which sounds like you're about
All
to
right.
go off on a meditation retreat. But it doesn't take technology necessarily. And I'm going to use a bank example.
Yeah.
Citizens Bank of Edmond in Oklahoma, not a national bank. The CEO of this bank, when banks were closed during the pandemic in 2020, people still needed cash. So they came up with a way to service people and the drive up to give them cash, to do transactions that they needed. And she just innovated. The CEO's name is Jill Castilla. Very, very innovative.
Yeah.
But she's not adverse to technology because she didn't do just this. I don't know if you remember the U.S. government allowed small businesses to take out loans, PPP loans, that if you had the right
Oh, no, I
documentation,
do remember. Yes. Yeah.
yeah, you wouldn't have to pay them back. Well, all these loans went through banks.
Yeah.
And this was not a type of loan that banks were used to. So they didn't have a ready application process, et cetera, et cetera. And it was very tedious. And she ended up partnering, I think it was with Mark Cuban, to create an app to do this.
Okay.
Like,
So,
so being able to innovate is like thinking on your feet strategically. What's the solution? Is it being there in person and enabling people to do transactions that maybe they can't do or won't do on their phone or their laptop? Or it's, developing with somebody you don't maybe haven't met and creating a new app to solve a problem that's brand new.
but how is that transformation? What's the transformation part on all this? I'm kind of missing that a little.
Well, I think that the ability to create new services, you
Okay.
know. So, the pandemic's over, maybe you get rid of the person, right there and you go back to whatever it is that you were doing. But now you have like this relationship in building a new app, or maybe you have some new flexibility or agility that you can leverage off of. Um, but I think innovation is is tough because a lot of times I know financial institutions are looking for this big killer app still. What's the one feature I can deploy where everybody will want to use it, right? Or how do I rejigger a credit card or a debit card service, or what loyalty points can I give to attract, all of Gen Z or Gen A or
Yeah.
XYZ, whatever it is. And that to me is thinking in the same old way. So innovation would be thinking like, all right, what do people across these generations all have in common?
Mhm.
Like some aspect of their lives. You know, for example, my son works at a small restaurant that was started up by an actual human. It's not they want to be a chain, but it's not a chain, right? The guy who owns it hires a lot of people from a lot of backgrounds, many people who may not have had bank accounts, right?
Yeah.
Or banks don't want to give accounts to, you
Yeah.
know. So, how do you reach that target market? They're getting paid. How do you help them in the city, save for a down payment to rent a place, right? Well, they have an app, um, their paycheck app. And this
Okay.
paycheck app has already partnered with a bank or financial services organization to then allow them to open an account. So banks outside of this app will never see these customers, these new customers. And I call these groups of people that have stuff in common but may not look related, hidden tribes. And so instead of going for these huge, wide variety of customers, like Gen X or Gen Z or boomers who may or may not have anything in common with each other, look for where there's overlap. you know he could
So,
hire. Yeah, so
so,
yeah,
well, like you said earlier, I mean, to you, transformation is a state of mind, right? It's basically it's what in business terms we would call an initiative or a global initiative or whatever. It's like, this is what's going to guide everything else you do. But then you look for the small innovations to begin to land the outcomes and the benefits of transformation. Would that be a better way to put it?
well, I think like to start staking some groundwork in changing behavior, changing the way you do things. There's a lot of talk in banking, like there is everywhere else, around agile.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a bank is anything but agile.
I
I
worked at a bank for 3 or 4 years, so I'm like, when you
Yes,
said that, I'm going like, yeah, that's a good way to characterize it, but
and
not
it's
really.
it's still like that. It's still like that, and it's not their fault. It's just the way things are. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no one person to point to, but how do you make change like that? You have If you have one group of people that can be allowed to use some new tools and develop something and that works, and people go, "Oh, interesting." And you can move that tool over. Some other group says, "Hey, we have this problem, can we use those tools to fix it?" And they're fixing it. So because the reason why I say this is I have seen over my years, both in banking and as an analyst,
Yeah.
anything larger than small fail. And I can say openly that I advise them to go with larger transformation projects, and they would fail. And
Okay.
there was even just doing, channel integration with
But what,
banks.
why would they fail? What is the key here? I'm trying. I mean, I'm trying to get to what is the trend. We all understand transformation a certain way,
Right.
which it's a directional imperative, initiative, whatever. Why would transformation fail? What's the excuse me? What's missing that is like making this fail? Is that a fair question?
Yeah, I mean, I think it gets a lot to the culture of banks. I remember one conversation I had with some bankers in my former job.
Yeah.
It was around business process management, right? It was an area I was covering from the banking side, and they guys were talking, and we're about different strategies and stuff, and I'm listening and listening, listening, and then all of a sudden I said, are you guys afraid that you might lose your jobs if you do this?
Ah, now we're getting
And
somewhere.
there was this silence that it was just palpable because I don't think they were even in the same country that I was, but I could just hear like truth had entered the room. And one of the guys I think said, yeah, basically,
Wow.
uh-huh. And so and I raise this example because BPM, digital transformation, it's all the same thing. It's new, it's what's new, right?
That's very
And,
interesting. So
and
this is mostly we're talking about a Maslow versus transformation level, right? I mean,
yeah,
Maslow pyramid of needs, basic tenets, safety procure, then yeah, we'll transform. But if we don't
yeah.
have safety procure, then we're not going to transform. That's
Yeah.
very interesting.
So is my job safe? I mean, when I worked in a bank and there was our group, I was in the alternative delivery group. We were tasked with coming up with the RFP and everything for internet servers. This was, a long time ago, and the strategy for getting the bank just online, a website. Somebody smelled in another group that this was an important project.
Hmm.
We delivered all the documentation. And on top of it, this other group came in and delivered theirs. They had more political pull. They got the project. They knew nothing about online anything, but that didn't matter. And this kind of thing, the politics, the organizational culture, to come up with a new idea is difficult as it is, right?
Yeah.
To come up with a new idea that transcends the traditional ways of segmenting customers and banks, this becomes then dangerous, right? So you have to start small. I think you have to start small. Otherwise,
Interesting.
why would I do it, me, and why would the organization do it if it's not proven, I think, that nothing's going to fall apart? Well, yet. Because we haven't even gotten to the floorboards that aren't straight,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
Wait till they realize that the floorboards, everything has to be taken out of the kitchen. You have to get rid of the 3-year-old refrigerator, but still basically brand new. Have to get rid of it and get a new one because the floorboards are 100 years old. And you have to figure out what to do with that.
So then, let's change gears a little bit because I mean I think it's fascinating that you're what you're saying, which is people are at the heart of transformation happening. It doesn't matter. I mean, look, transformation is imposed on businesses. The gurus up in the mountain say 2010 is the era of the decade of digital transformation, and it trickles down to both charlatans and proper influencers and evangelists or whatever you want to call them, and everybody agrees that we had to digitally transform, and now it became the law of the land essentially, and the executives in your company get an earful from every management consultant to mom and pop to every person in the world that would thinks that digital transformation is proper, and then now we need to do something about it, and then
Yeah.
theory meets reality, right? This is what you're saying. I
Yeah.
mean, people are fearful for the job, fearful for their position, their money, their stability, they're afraid of change, pick any of those things. So then it kind of slowly moves forward, but the smaller innovations is actually what propels transformation, right?
Yeah. And I think that transformation is made up of these smaller things, that each of them can become more and more innovative.
But
So
there's still got to be a long-term goal of getting to transformation, right? I mean,
yeah,
even if you don't embrace it as part of you said it's a state of mind, I said it's a global initiative, but even if you don't embrace it as part of the label, you're still aiming to get there, right? I mean, do
yeah,
you see
sure.
this?
Yeah, but you can have a digital transformation strategy that's live and in process, but never does anything, right? So is having a mobile banking app achieving the digital transformation strategy?
To a certain extent, it is, but
Yeah.
that's the wrong question because I mean, the better question is, can you really compete without a mobile banking app? And if so, then it stems 20, 30 different questions, which is like, what does he have to do? What are the minimum requirements? What does he have to work? I
Yeah.
mean, can you have it down for 6 hours every night while you connect the data sources and update all the data so that it looks like it's in real time? I mean, all
Yeah,
these things, right?
well, exactly. You can't afford that. So maybe sometimes you have to go back and fix the plumbing, and
Yeah.
then you can move forward on the front end. That's why, you have to do a little bit here and then a little bit there, and then slowly build the transformation that things look different, and you can start to build things like products that you couldn't think about before because the retail side and banking, the consumer side can't really talk to, say, the wealth management side or the small business side. And this is not a new idea that I've had. I mean, I've thought about this for a long time, as have other people. I mean, you know, um, other people have written books on this as well. I mean,
Yeah.
about the problem in organization and banking to a large extent isn't different than any other,
Yeah. People writing
large
books.
organization.
People writing books don't impress me much usually. Let's leave it at that. But so then at what point the reconciliation happens, if it does at all, right? At what point do you say we did all the small innovations that were not done in the name of transformation, but hey, looky here, we are actually use digital transformation since it's the latest one. We're actually digitally transforming our you know our online apps and our mobile apps are real time, and there was this, but there was a side item. There was this documentary, not documentary, this commercial back in the day when I used to watch television, which was many, 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 many months ago, but early days of mobile apps. And Wells Fargo had this commercial where they actually show that if you open your mobile app and you use your credit card and you refresh, it would like show up right there in real time, right? Which, knowing how that happens is magic essentially, because the systems are never connected, but but then that's what Wells Fargo used to say, like, we're digital transform, and now they have Fargo. I mean, Wells Fargo is my bank, so I use them as an example. Now they have Fargo, which is a chatbot, the AI, automated AI assistant, whatever. At what point does the reconciliation happen there, when they will
Well,
say,
that's a really good question, because does everybody have to transform to the same point? What does that mean?
well,
For a credit union, which is guided by different rules than retail banks and operates maybe in a different geographic area, transformation might mean something else. Than it does for Wells Fargo.
yeah,
Maybe transformation for a community bank might mean that they can have new branches, I know that's a dirty word, in parts of the community they serve in various configurations to allow them to fund more small businesses. And that is critical to their growth, right?
hmm,
Profitability is funding more businesses that are successful, repay their loans, et cetera, because that's how banks make money, getting deposits, lending it out, and
but
getting that,
okay, but
generating revenue. So there's no formula. I mean, I think the big thing is, like, are you doing stuff that transforms the way the customers can interact with you, or are you doing stuff that push them away?
so then that's actually a very interesting statement, because it talks to the purpose for transformation. I mean, should the purpose of transformation be remain true and improve for the customer, or is it for the company?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
What's the bank's mission? And again, I go back to credit unions and community banks, because they are actually lucky in this area of transformation, is they have very specific missions. You know, the Philadelphia Credit Union for police and firefighters, they exist only for firefighters and police officers, law enforcement people in the city of Philadelphia, where I live. I mean, that's their member base, their customer base. It's really specific. Um, and they have, what they need to do is serves them. For a larger bank, I think, like any large organization, it's like, is the mission just us making more money, or do we have to do something for our customers to keep making money, to stay in business? And which customers? Um, do we? I can't remember which bank it was in the U.S. recently that was suddenly cutting off customers, telling them we're dropping you. Or
Oh, I
was
can't
this?
remember. I remember the news, but
Yeah,
I can't remember the bank.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if the bank decides we don't want to service people that, I don't know, live in my zip code, you can just say, hey, we're not going to do that. We're not going to service you anymore. Go find somebody else. What's what's there? So I really think transformation has to be tied to, what is your mission as the bank? What are your goals? Not just the goals of IT, but where do you want to serve? Who do you want to serve? I've been working with a bank on the African continent, and they have a very specific strategy around serving people who are underbanked. And
Which
that's
is,
way,
I mean, is it different? Is it innovative? Is it disruptive? Is it
well,
transformative? I mean,
it could be disruptive. It could be disruptive if they actually
okay,
do it, you know.
okay.
But they're not, do they need to have, what do they need to get there? Do they need the fanciest whatever? Not necessarily. Maybe they need to be still working off of, you know, flip phones, being able to service people that way. I don't know. They probably need to be able to service people who are not literate, which is different than dealing with people who are underbanked or not as banked in the US, for example. But
So,
that's
so,
a different mission, you know?
but then, I mean, if I hear what you're saying correctly, right? And again, kind of recapping for the second third of this is, we talk about innovation being fixing of this stuff that doesn't work, that eventually leads to transformation. We talk about transformation being a state of mind or a global initiative that encompasses all the innovations towards a common goal. And now we're trying to define what that common goal is, right? And
Yeah,
what you're saying is like the goal will change depending on many factors. I mean, the size of the
yeah.
company, the location, the regulations, the purpose, I don't know, the CEO's desire to be, rich or not. I'm guessing, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
so then, if all this is true, and I'm agreeing with everything you're saying, but if this is true, then what's the purpose of transformation? I mean, is there really a purpose for transformation of businesses? Do we just, is it only to fuel the high, what was it, the champagne lifestyles of like management consultants traveling the world, telling everybody how it impacts the world, or is it really a
Well,
purpose?
maybe it becomes besides the point. If you're achieving your goals, what is transformation? Are you going to look different? Is the bank going to look different? Maybe, maybe not. For some banks, it might mean more branches that look completely different than any branch they've ever had before, right? And I bring this up because it's very fashionable to say branches are obsolete in the banking world. So
I
being ornery, I have to say maybe more branches are important.
it's interesting because without that, deviating into that conversation, I'm one of the people that says branches should never exist. Yet over the last 5 years, virtually every single thing that I had to do that require more than the traditional stuff required a branch and a person.
Hmm.
Even if it
Yeah,
was handing a signed paper form to somebody so that it wouldn't take 2 weeks to go through the process, right? I mean, it
yeah.
requires that concept. So I mean, then if the bank's goal, let's use this as an example. The bank goal is to reach out deeper into the community. As a result of that, we can open in different branches. We can open branches in, like, supermarkets and Starbucks. There was Capital One for a while doing coffee shops,
Yeah.
as part of the branches, right? We can open branches within coffee shops and supermarkets, and like roaming branches that come in, like, food trucks. You get a taco, you get a checking account at the same time, or whatever, right? I mean, that's the
That's a
goal.
great idea. Yeah.
That's a great idea. I would actually sign up for an account if that's what you get.
Now I'm hungry.
I
But
know.
I blame you since I already had lunch.
But if that were to be the case, right? If that's the
Right.
case, then innovation comes to, like, making sure that the food truck has access to the real-time data somehow, right? And transformation is making sure that all these innovations allow the creation of a better way to reach out to the customers.
And yet banks are already able to do this, because what do you think happens after a flood or a hurricane or a wildfire burns down all the branches and ATMs are melted? A mobile branch goes in
Yeah,
and they bank it. They help people if they need a bank card or something, because people aren't living in their houses necessarily,
yeah.
right? They have to physically go there. So I think it's like, so innovation would be saying, oh, we did this in this special, crazy time, in this emergency. Let's adapt it for usage now, right? Goes back to the examples I gave of Citizens Bank of Edmonds, right? Let's take this stuff that we did during this crazy pandemic and use that mindset and be open to new ideas, right? So maybe we don't have to have this kind of process for teller transactions at the cars because the bank has to be closed, but maybe we can adapt it. I don't know. What does that mean? I don't know. If all the answers were known, then it wouldn't be innovation, would it?
Well,
And
and that's a good like circle back statement, right? I
yeah,
mean, if you have transformation aiming to meet the goals of the company, but we don't know all the different pieces, then we're always going to constantly going back to the innovation stage to get to the transformation, to get to reaching
yeah,
the goals.
yeah. And what does transformation mean for a certain organization? Maybe they're able to respond to, I don't know, their customers when they have wildfires. If you live in California and you're a bank and you don't have strategy and technology in place to deal with wildfires, like, what are you doing? You know?
So okay, so let's we get about 10 minutes or so before I need to wrap this up. So let's try to bring this to a little bit of a higher level. I mean,
Sure.
we talk about banks a lot, and I appreciate that, and I know that you can do this because we've done this for like the last X number of years in our careers. 5 for me, maybe 4 for you. But what is anybody else that's trying to figure out transformation strategies need to figure out or need to understand about this thing we discussed? I agree with the model. I think that is small innovations to fix what's fucked up, leading to bigger transformational mindset to achieve the goals of the company, right? So then,
Yeah.
are there like 2 or 3 things that we can take out that we can apply to any business, whether it's a bank or not, that you think might be interesting to share?
I mean, just get started. Don't overanalyze. As an analyst, I feel
Ah,
like I'm an expert on that.
you
So
just put
don't
us out of business,
overanalyze.
woman. You just put us out of business.
Don't overanalyze the problem.
Yeah.
And don't write too much documentation about it. All right, there's a problem. You have enough customer complaints that the mobile banking app doesn't load, it doesn't work, it takes too long. All right, how much proof do you really need? If customers say it stinks enough, we have 10, 20. Is there a difference between 30 and 100 complaints, really?
Potentially going back to what we were saying earlier, if I fear for my job, I might try to hide 30, but I cannot hide 100,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but if your boss said, hey, pick a problem we can solve in 6 weeks and show that we can add value to the company that quickly, and then said, hey, I can give you I don't know, whatever, $5,000 bonus to each person on the team that does it.
That's a very
I know.
interesting approach. That's a very interesting approach. I mean, have you seen
Yeah.
that being done where you say, I know we have 200 problems, pick one that we can fix in 6 to 8 weeks, and everybody gets a little bonus, for doing it, and we show value added, and then we show that we are like
Yeah. And you still
transformative.
get, yeah. And if you fail and you say why it failed, you still get a bonus. I mean, then you're rewarding failure, which is another thing that everybody's afraid of, right? Oh no, failure. I don't want that on my resume.
No, I hate to approach it from the point of view that you're gonna fail and it's okay to fail. I prefer. I mean, I'm old. Okay, I'm the old guy sitting in the Porsche going get up my lawn. I won't deny that, but I don't reward failure. I want to reward the attempt to do it. Right.
Well,
And-
you can.
but
There's so many problems out there, Esteban. Failure is really like a long shot, don't you think?
it is if you choose the right problem. But I would rather say, okay, this approach failed, try again, rather than say
Yeah.
we'll reward your failure with, okay, with a bonus or whatever. It's like,
Well,
okay, we'll
we
give you the
won't
ability
fire
to do
you.
it again. Yeah, we won't fire
We
you.
won't
Here's,
fire you.
yeah,
Yeah.
here's try again until you get it right. And
So,
that to me is
yeah,
innovation.
yeah. So get the problem solved in 6 weeks. All right. That means you can't have a lot of 3-hour meetings, can you? Because that eats into your 6 weeks.
I In the last couple of years, I can count in one hand the number of meetings I had that lasted more than 10 minutes.
Well, you clearly have not been working in a bank.
No, I was working in corporate and I had to attend those meetings, but I don't consider them meetings because I was just there for functionality, like to put my name there. But functional issue resolving, information sharing, decision making meetings that last more than 10 minutes are absolutely worthless, is my opinion. But
Well, see, but if you're focused on solving problems,
yeah,
then they don't last a long time.
yeah, you just need a piece of information or a decision. So you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
present, yeah.
And you
So
say,
then,
okay, you go ahead and fix this problem. And you can measure the problem. Let's say we have, I don't know, let's say you can find some data that says the mobile app is down like every day for 2 or 3 hours during working hours. Let's say that's the problem. And you can fix that and show that it's up 95% of the time during working hours.
yeah.
Measurable. Now, that's an obvious thing, but you can then measure stuff. How many people in the next month are complaining about the mobile app?
So I mean, so don't overthink it, which I agree with.
Yeah.
Take a small innovation approach and like pick something that you can fix, measure to make
Yeah.
sure that you fixed it. Enable. I would prefer, instead of saying like enable say failure, I would say enable job security. You can fail. It's okay to fail. We all fail. I mean, so enable job security. But then when you put all this stuff into place, again, we're just still aiming towards like a long-standing global initiative, state of mind of transformation, or does it matter at all at that point then?
Well, I think maybe if the organization is having trouble getting started on strategy or
Yeah.
getting started on executing the strategy, I think it can help either way. It can add some pressure going from the bottom up because these things, again, it's not just humans, it's affecting people. And one person tells another person, and they go to their boss and say, hey, the guys over in that group get to do X, Y, and Z, why can't we do that? And then sooner or later the CXOs are sitting around going, how come we can't have that? And oh, by the way, our competition is doing this. And then they're working on a strategy, or they've got the strategy and it's over analysis or paralysis or too many consultants, and they just have a stack of paper, and you can't do anything because where do you get started? It's too well documented. It's almost like
No,
too much information can
you
paralyze.
said you said well documented a few times. I'm gonna be led to believe that you have a problem with well documented processes.
Oh, I didn't say the processes were well
This is the strategy.
documented.
This
The
is the strategy. That's
strategy,
right.
the
That's right.
analysis, I
So
mean,
okay. So let me so then to recap and before we get into the closing part, uh, focus on small innovations, things that matter that you may or may not know you need, but pick a small problem, solve it, aggregate that to a bigger problem that can be solved as a result of solving the first problem, and then the third one that is as a result of solving the first two, right? Uh,
yeah,
I cannot connect my data to every branch in the world. I connected my data and now I can provide this service. Now that I provide a service, I can do this and I can measure the results that way. I mean,
yeah,
use that to be innovation, and then take that innovation and aggregate it into a transformation mind frame,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And then
yeah,
in order to succeed, don't overthink it. Start small. enable failure, which is your words, not mine. I would prefer to enable job security, but we won't fire you.
Esteban's not arguing for failure. Just let's be clear, right?
I fucking hate failure as an option. It's like I think that failure as an option destroyed half a generation behind it. I mean, it's okay to fail fast and whatever, learn and keep going. I mean, I don't dismiss the value of trying and failing, but I don't think it should be the goal. I think it should be a necessary outcome. Yeah.
Success is the goal, but you don't have to be like my daughter who got a C once on some test, and she said, "Oh, Mama, I don't ever want to do that again." I mean, that's part of life.
My daughter got a bad test a couple of weeks ago and decided that they were never going back to school, so they wouldn't have to face the professor with a bad grade. And I'm going like, that's the stupidest thing in the universe. I mean, just go to school.
That's a little extreme. Extreme.
Well, then they finally go and they said, oh, shit, the reason I got a bad grade is because I didn't see the back of the page where there were 3 problems that I didn't solve. Otherwise, I would have got a fantastic grade. And it's like,
yeah.
Okay, see, if you didn't go, you would never known that. I mean, like, deal with it and move forward. But anyway, back to where we were. So then, to wrap up, the last 55 minutes or so that we've been talking. I mean, look, transformation doesn't matter. It's what management consultants make money on. That's my statement in life. Having been a management consultant, I love those statements. Like, you have to digitally transform. You have to enable AI as the driver for all the business over the next 20 years or whatever. That's how you make money. That's perfect. But it's the small innovations that lead within the mind frame that you can actually make a difference, right?
Yeah, and it's making differences in people's lives, whether they're the people doing the work or the management, or God forbid the customers, whoever they are, and they could be large corporate customers too.
I don't like customers. Everything's great until you face a customer. Everything goes to shit once you face a customer. All your ideas, all your execution, everything goes to shit right away.
That's true. True.
So, anyways, okay. Well, Stessa, thank you so much for being here. This was a great conversation.
Yeah,
we'll make it available to you. To those listening, thank you for joining us. Innovations or transformation. I'm in favor of innovations. I'm with Stessa on this. Small innovations. Although, if you're a management consultant person, transformation is the way to go. Definitely make sure that you write up the well-documented strategy on how to get there.
I can do that. No problem.
I'll do that. It's not a bad idea. And then thank you for being here this week. Join us next week. I lost it again. Liz Miller, the fantastic Liz Miller will join us to talk about the outlook for 2024 without mentioning AI. And with that, we are done. Thank you.